Okay. Oh, welcome back. Welcome back. I didn't realize I was live. I did not realize that. Welcome back. Thank you to all my new subscribers. I really appreciate you all. Thank you so, so much. Um, we're getting into our book club reading tonight. It will be short. I always say that and end up long, but normally the book club readings are short. And we're doing two books actually at the same time, the 48 Laws of Power. We on Law 6, but we're getting back into our book, the Trilateral Commission. And this is one of the elite secret societies that run the government and governments around the world, but especially the United States government. And we left off on our last video about Chile's democracy. And we're gonna get right. Oh my God! I don't wet the page. How did I wet the page? Okay. Well, anyway, we're getting back off about the overthrow of Chile's democracy, democratic elected government, and that's what we're gonna talk about. And this is what they do. The World Bank, the International Monetary Fund, both started by the Rothschilds. They go to these countries as they did Africa, loan money that they know you'll never pay back. And then guess what? They control your government and you make policies that benefits the elite, the globalists, the cabal, the Illuminati, whatever you want to call it. That's what we're dealing with in this book. And the Trilateral Commission is one of the missions, one of the secret societies that runs governments. Oh my God, what happened to my hair? Okay. I'm trying to see what happened to my hair, y'all. Anyway, hey, and hit the like button. Like, share, subscribe, hit the like, like button. Okay, so we're getting back into, like I said, our book, Trilateral Commission, and then I'm gonna do some celebrity news after this because I have to hit some serious stuff, and then we do our celebrity stuff because this channel we talk about everything. Hi, how are you? Hi, Tobias. How y'all doing? So the overthrow of Chile's democratic elected government is a case in point. From a memo to Chilean President Frey, September 1970, in controlling interests, the case of Chile's destabilization following Salvador Allende's presidential victory is well documented. Nixon, Kissinger, and the CIA director Richard Helms succeeded in their efforts to make the economy scream by orchestrating an economic blockade of the country, cutting off U.S. aid and all lines of international public and private bank finance. Wow. Same thing they do today, the countries. Same thing. Same method of gaining control of economies around the world. Yes, Tobias, I would love for you to subscribe. Thank you. You know I need them. I need I need every subscriber I can. But we talk about different topics from politics to celebrity news, anything in between. So right now I'm doing a serious topic and then I'm gonna come back with basketball wise. You see how that goes? So to make it fun. But this is what they do. They destabilize countries, loan them more money than they're able to pay back to take control. Now you at the bidding of your master. And this is what the Illuminati, the elite, the cabal, the globalists, whatever you call them, do. And this is a prime example. And I'm going to read that again. Nixon, Kissinger, Illuminati right there. He was part of he was a mentor of Barack Obama. He bought him in. Kissinger and George Soros trained Barack Obama. And CIA Director Richard Ham succeeded in their efforts to make the economy scream by orchestrating an economic blockade of the country. Same thing we do when we do sanctions against any country. Cutting off U.S. aid and all lines of international public and private bank finance. This is how you control a country. And orchestrating economic and political sabotage within the country. Wow. Why do they do the same thing over and over again? Because it works. Just like if you in the entertainment business, the same sacrifices, the same thing. It's either drug overdose, they say you cuckoo, car accident, suicide, because it works. They do the same thing. More than 30,000 people were killed. Oh no, I missed a sentence. I'm sorry. Military assistance, however, was increased in order to encourage and enable the army to overthrow the government. Same tactic used today. This book was written in 1980. Thank you for hitting the like button. This book was written in 1980. Same thing. To overthrow the government and smash Chile's democracy to bring back economic freedom. And you never get economic freedom. Why? Because you cannot pay back the money. Period. And they take total control of your country. More than 30,000 people were killed, including President Allende, resisting the military coup of September 11th. Look at that date. Oh my God. The coup happened on September 11th, 1973. And what happened here September 11th, 2001? Look at that. The Illuminati does numerology, period. Everything they do is by a number. Wow, look at that. Look at that. Hold on, I'm trying to start my computer. Okay, now let me log in. Hold on. September 11, 1973. You can't make this up. You can't make it up. Since then, over 2,000 people have disappeared, and most are presumed dead. More than 100,000 people have been jailed for political reasons. Torture is commonplace. Thousands of people have been forced to flee into exile. Sound like Haiti today. Sounds like Haiti today because barbecue has total control of the capital of Haiti right now. And thousands and millions are fleeing. Same thing. Wow. Wow. Today, hunger and starvation have replaced the community based nutrition and food programs of the Alante government. Out of, out of a sample, 19,000 children in church sponsored study, two-thirds were found to be malnourished in 1976. Infant mortality reduced during the Allende years, jumped 18% during the first year of military rule. Before the coup, unemployment had been reduced to 3.1%. Sound like what they did to Venezuela. Venezuela was a prosperous country. They were selling oil under Chavez, whom I liked. I liked Chavez. And he did not bow to the US government. No, he did not. And they crushed this economy, crushed it. Now you got what's that president's name? Now start with an M. He has destroyed Venezuela like Gavin Newsom has destroyed California. Now listen, infant mortality jumped 18% during the first year of military rule. Before the coup, unemployment had been reduced to 3.1%. By 1976, about one-fourth of the population had no income. Sound like Venezuela. A 1976 International Monetary Fund ran by the Rothschilds study reveals the exact no reveals the income redistribution from the poor to the rich since the Q. Now, did you see what they said? Income redistribution from the poor to the rich. I said it correctly. Not the other way around, from the rich to the poor, just like it is today. The middle class, whatever's left of it, pays most of the taxes and pays for everything, from the poor to the rich, since the coup. In 1972, 63% of the total national income went to wage and salary workers, while property owners received 37% in the form of profits, dividends, and rent. By 1974, 62% went to the the property sector or landowners, and labor share was cut to 38%. So all that profit went to the elite, while labor was cut 38% in their wages. Same thing happening now. Wow. Homie, you heard that? Cutting them wages. For example, Orlando Latner, he wrote a piece, Economic Freedom and Political Repression. 3 years before the coup, U.S. Ambassador Corey communicated Washington's sinister promise. This the United States where we live at, what they promise. Same thing they've been doing. Ain't never changed. Not a nut or bolt shall reach Chile under Alante. Because they didn't like him, so they weren't giving him nothing. No money, nothing. He couldn't get loans, nothing. Now, you heard what U.S. Ambassador Corey said to him. Not a nut or bolt shall reach Chile under Alante. Once Alante comes to power, we shall do all within our power to condemn Chile and all Chileans to utmost depravity and deprivation and poverty, because they did not like their leader. The people had to suffer. Sound like Haiti, sound like Dominican Republic, sound like any Cuba, sound like Ukraine. So, the people have to suffer because I don't like your leadership. You ain't gonna get nothing, no money, period. You can go from the sea to the heavenlies and you're not getting anything. We're gonna make sure of it. We're gonna bring you down to total poverty. Ain't that what Trump did to Iran before the last regime gave them $6 billion? Wow. Same tactics. Events in Jamaica in late 1970s reveal a newer brand of debt diplomacy. Its more insidious style is preferred by trilateralists over the Chilean coup scenario. Even more than before, the International Monetary Fund acts as chief ambassador of Western capitalism in the art of debt diplomacy. Didn't I just tell y'all that? They lend you money that you know that they know you can't pay back, so they have total control of your land and resources, and you gonna do whatever they say, or they gonna get a coup against you and overthrow your government, that they did in the Bay of Pigs in Cuba, that they did in Iraq. The CIA put Saddam Hussein in power. The CIA put Castro in power. And when they did not do, the CIA put Muammar Gaddafi in power. And when they no longer were useful or needed, you see what Hillary did? She went right in there and annihilated Gaddafi. Anyway, this book is so good to me. Now, even more than before, the International Monetary Fund acts as a chief ambassador of Western capitalism in the art of debt diplomacy. The IMF is not the world's biggest loan shark, but it is the most important. The IMF Good Housekeeping Seal is the green light for lending by banks, government agencies, and other financial institutions like the World Bank, all controlled by the Rothschilds. The U.S. and other trilateral countries control the IMF. That's a lie. Okay. The IMF program of economic stabilization spells atrocity for the masses of the population. That's a fact. Measures are designed to entice foreign investment. So called luxury social welfare programs like food and education subsidies are dismantled. Wages are kept down. Harsh repression is often needed to carry out a forced cut in already meager living standards and redirect resources to the export business sector, which is largely foreign owned and controlled. Wow. Wow. Not surprisingly, the Commission has recommended a strengthening and expansion of the International Monetary Fund's role in monitoring the international monetary system and managing interdependence. As Frank Hinkler, whatever, points out, the trilateral countries see interdependence as a weapon in this conflict between Western capitalism and the people of the third world. And the use of this weapon is called destabilization. God damn, you can't make this up. Same thing. This book written in 1980, same tactics being used 2025. Dig this now. The human rights strategy. You have open borders operate because the United States signed out onto the Global Compact of Migration. That is a video ideas from months back and broke down the open borders policy. Same thing. They use human rights as a strategy. Well, they can't make it in their country, so we just gonna open up the border to everybody, not knowing that cultures clash. They come from different way of thinking, different way of life, and you can't bring that culture into another culture. Then you have all these problems. But look, so they've been using a human rights strategy. When it comes to protecting human rights, Carter has launched the so-called human rights campaign and committed the United States to shaping a world order that is just, peaceful, and more responsive to human aspirations. The commission uses the same rhetoric for the same purpose. It is a moral mask on the face of trilateralism with its goal of shaping a world order that remains responsive to corporate aspiration. Wow. Wow. For example, this is so damn good. I hope y'all getting something out of this. High sounding slogans like making the world a safer place. It's against democracy. It's democracy. They indoctrinate you into this thinking. Making the world safe for democracy has become familiar refrains in drowning out the true battle cry of U.S. interventionism. In 1961, for example, President Kennedy launched the Alliance for Progress in Latin America closely on the heels of 1959 Cuban Revolution. Didn't I just say the Bay of Pigs? I love history because history repeats itself. History repeats itself because the people in power, the same tactics work. That's why it repeats itself. Which Kennedy tried to smash in 1961 with the CIA-led Bay of Pigs invasion. Didn't I just say that? Don't tell me I don't know what I'm talking about. Stepped up counterinsurgency assistance was coupled with mounting aid for economic development. The goal was to prevent another Cuba by diffusing revolutionary potential where possible, crushing revolutionary movements where necessary. They did not want Cuba to become communist. And they crushed Cuba, and the only people that came to their aid was who? Russia. That's how they converted to communism. Wow, this is so good. If you don't enjoy this, I do. I've been having this book for over almost 30 years, and now I'm reading books that I've been wanting to read. Trilateral states do not piously practice the human rights they preach, either inside or outside their borders. Remember the outcry when UN Ambassador Andrew Young, who is black boule, like W.E.B. Du Bois, black boule, gatekeepers for the Illuminati, they sell their people out for $1 bill. Now, anyway, Ambassador Andrew Young, one of the most candid and enlightened trilateralists, they telling you right there, he was a part of the Trilateral Commission. Commented, after all, in our prisons too, there are hundreds, perhaps even thousands of people who I would call political prisoners. He and we were reminded that human rights are a propaganda tool being used then, being used now. God, human rights is a propaganda tool being used then. This is 1961 now because the same tactics work. The Bible says we are not ignorant of Satan's devices. Well, yes, you are, because if you don't know how your enemy operates, how you going to defeat him? He and we were reminded that human rights are a propaganda tool being used then. At the time of the Soviet dissident trials, the U.S. press provided front page dramatizations. Same thing. You ain't never seen a bunch of Democrats that just spew lie after lie after lie after lie and just make up stuff and you like that's not even what happened. That's not what happened. And the people don't get it. It's called propaganda. Travis Stock Institute. We're gonna talk about that at a later time. Wow, this is good. Now, indeed, repression and counterinsurgency are the glue for the triadical mask of reform, placing the Carter Human Rights Campaign in its proper historical text. James Petrus says, morality is the reoccurring ideological expression of U.S. imperialism in a period of crisis. Oh my God. It is what is offered to the world in place of substantive changes in the world's economic and social order. God, you can't make this up. You can't make this. You can't make this up. Mm-mm, 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 mm-mm. When substantive change does not occur, it reflects a failure of the human rights policy, not a success. No case illustrates this more than the clearly than longtime Western support of the Shah's regime in Iran in its 1978-79 overthrow of the Iranian people. And remember, Jimmy Carter couldn't get the hostages back. Remember that? I was a kid then. The Shah regime, this is when the CIA do a coup and take over a country, overthrow it. The Shah's regime received more U.S. military equipment than any other country in the world and was an economic bonanza for global corporations. You can't make this up. With Saudi Arabia, the Shah's regime was to provide stability in the Middle East and the modernization in OPEC policies, and OPEC sets the price of oil, the barrels of oil. Securing oil for the Trilateral regions. You can't make this up. Now, when the Shah visited D.C. in 1977, Carter toasted, if ever there was a country which has blossomed forth under enlightened leadership, there go that code word, enlightened, what? Lucifer is a bearer of light. Because the Illuminati, the Globist Cabal, whatever you call it, they worship the Luciferian doctrine. That's what they follow. Oh my God. Enlightened leadership. It would be the ancient empire of Persia, which is now the great country of Iran, with a little unmentioned help from the CIA, which deposed the nationalist Prime Minister Mostagar in 1953, brought the Shah back into power. See what they do coups all day long. Back into power, and then supported him until the final hour. The backdrop to the Shah's visit was a battle between anti-Shah and pro-Shah demonstrators. And after the Shah, that's when this man who is in power now over Iran took control from the what you would call like a royal family, and they've been in power ever since, and the Iranian people want him out of there. So it's going to be real interesting what happens to Iran today. When tear gas drifted into the welcoming ceremonies, Carter apologized for the temporary air pollution. Washington Post headlines begin to tell the story. Human rights on the eclipse. Iran shifts stand. Will try to keep oil prices down. And if y'all remember, well, you might not remember. I remember my grandmother waiting in line for hours to get gas. And gas was so high back then. Same tactic works. Shaw heads for the U.S. were arms list. Helms as consultant, former ambassador and former CIA head would be the go-between for Iranian firms. Sound like Ukraine, don't it? Wow. Trilateralists caution that in many cases, the support for human rights will have to be balanced against other important goals of the world order. They use the Soviet Union as an example of where balance is needed. But the cases of countries like Iran, Nicaragua, South Korea, the Philippines, all the poor countries, South Africa, are far more telling. Henry Kissinger, the Illuminati himself, explains the lessons to be drawn from the events leading to the overthrow of the Shah. The fundamental challenge of a revolution is this. Certainly, wise governments forestall revolutions by making timely concessions. Hey, cuz, talking about the Illuminati. I would donate, but I can't. That's fine, Tobias. It's good. When I become monetized, it'll be good. Um, what was I saying? The fundamental challenge of a revolution is this. Certainly, wise governments forestall revolutions by making timely concessions. Indeed, the very wisest governments do not consider adaptations as concessions, but rather as part of a natural process of increasing popular support. However, once a revolution has occurred, the preeminent requirement is the restoration of authority. These concessions would have they been taken a year earlier might have avoided the situation, accelerated the process of this. But the point is to create chaos. Then the people beg for a solution, and this when the Illuminati come in. They come in, they already know what the solution is. Trilateral economics dictate unceasing exploitation. That is a fact. Still, trilateralists rhetorically claim a basic human solidarity with the oppressed. And did you see the last line that I read a few minutes ago? How the rich, no, how the poor pay the rich. Wow, you can't make this up. The lesson we must draw from the events in Iran and around the globe is that human rights trilateral style is a move played in the game of world politics. It is never played in solidarity with the oppressed, but only by and for the oppressor. You can't make this up. You cannot. I'm trying to see where I'm going to start reading. Okay. Um, okay. Keeping this point in mind, we see that two seemingly contradictory strategies are employed by trilateralists toward the same end to keep conservative pro-Western third world elites from being supplanted by progressive forces. Stay in power is what they're saying. First, there's a maintenance of police states. Oh my fucking God. There is a maintenance of police states or national security states as they are commonly known in Latin America, wherever they can remain stable and serve the needs of Western capitalism. Same thing going on right now. Many of these regimes have served an increasingly important function as regional police and sub-imperialists under guidelines set forth in the Nixon Doctrine. Wow. This book was written 1980. Same tactics. Ain't nothing changed but the people and the time. The game don't change but the people and the time. Second, there is an encouragement of democratization or liberalization, as the Carter administration calls it. The goal is to transfer client dictatorship into pro Western subordinate forms of limited capitalist democracies, sometimes referred to as new democracy or viable democracy. See that propaganda? Anytime they say, like Trump, for example, he's a threat against democracy, then it's every threat against all propaganda. Damn. Same tactic, different day. Liberalization is not a gift of the international ruling class. It comes of necessity when the revolutionary potential of the population is mounting under unceasing repression and poverty of the police state. Oh my God. It entails the concessions Kissinger spoke of regarding Iran. Mhm. Wow. Or it comes of a necessity when local businessmen and landowners are closed out of wealth accumulation shared only with privileged foreign corporations. Agenda 2030. You will own nothing and be happy. You will not own your house. That's the goal of Agenda 2030. They only really build in apartment buildings. You as an individual, of course, can go build your house. But they not really building houses like that. Not like they used to. You have some communities sprouting up. I'm just saying. But when I start talking about Agenda 2030 at another day, but the slogan is you will own nothing and be happy. And all they have to do is do eminent domain and come snatch your stuff. Whatever reason they say. But of course, that comes with martial law and a lot of stuff. But I'm going ahead of myself. Okay. Often the ruling clique has a strong hold on the economy, such as the Somoza family did in Nicaragua. You can't make this up. I'm gonna finish these two paragraphs and stop. Okay. All right. If there's too much graft and patronage and too much money leaving the country for Swiss bank accounts and foreign property, stifling the growth of the middle class and stunting economic development, then pressure mounts within capitalist class and middle strata for a civilian government. Democratization, trilateral style, requires the existence of a modern alternative to military dictatorship, such as Antonio Guzman in the Dominican Republic. The moderate platform promised greater political freedom for the population while encouraging an expanding middle sector of entrepreneurs and consumers within a capitalist economy by curbing the practice of arbitrary imprisonment, murder, exile, torture, and blanket censorship, focusing repression on extremists. Capitalists hope to diffuse the popular struggle for universal economic and social rights, employment, food, housing, health, education, and true political participation. These rights go beyond what triadalists see as the minimum of social justice and reform necessary for stability and expanding markets to directly threaten. So they saying these things, the basic human rights that we need, threatens directly threatens trilateral neo-imperialism. You can't make this up. Last paragraph. When liberation forces are strong with widespread popular support, decriminalization has no chance of success. Witness the failure of the U.S. attempt to install Ba'athist regime in Iran or impose a conservative coalition government in Nicaragua as the Sandinista-led victory drew near. All that was the Iran Contra thing where they CIA admitted to putting crack in the black community. Freeway Ricky Ross was buying kilos from the CIA to support the Iran Contra thing to buy guns to impose the Sandinistas. Oh my God, you can't make this up. In both cases, Washington was surprised when the people proved power enough to overthrow their dictatorships. It's power in the people, and that's why they have to create the crisis to keep us divided. White versus black. Now we got the Africans versus black. Now you got the Latinos versus black. Everything, but if you become united as one, let me read that again. In both cases, Washington was surprised when the people proved power enough to overthrow their dictatorships. Washington was again surprised when the people refused to hand their country back to the U.S. caretakers. The Trilateral strategy, a democratization is a strategy of cooperation. It has a chance of success when power lies with the reformist elements in society, but not in the face of a broad-based revolutionary movement. Goddamn. Goddamn. I'm about to end that there. You can't make this up. Oh my God, this book is so good. Like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. All right, now how I end this? Okay.